from my friend Tailed Feature, so my brain is a little addled. What better way to continue that tradition this morning than by watching a TEDx? You know me, I'm always ready for some mental torture of one kind or another. Say hello to those of you who have decided to join me on this Sunday morning. Oh, and also happy Easter for those of you who celebrate such, and even if you don't. Let's see, who is here? Raziel, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Old Guy Gamer, hello. Seftus Wolf, hello. Adam Mangold, hello. John Rutherford, hello. And Morphic States, hello. K-Shoal, hello. Meharoons Dagon, hello. The gayest person on YouTube, hello. Steve Luzon, hello. Eric Grinstatter, hello. John Migda, hello. Cannibalistic Wizard, hello. Devil Fruit Zero, hello. So, what do we have on the dock for today? Well, it is a presentation entitled Bring Your Emotions to Work. Bring your emotions to work. I have some thoughts on that, but some more hellos first. Gunfox61, hello. Elish Norn, hello. Sean Uli, hello. Pink Hollow the Driving Ape Man, hello. The Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. Nassos, hello. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Holy cats, so many people on a Sunday morning. So Lucifer Never Changes, hello. Bring your emotions to work. Cultist 4, hello. What occurs to me immediately when I see that title? And again, as always, I have not actually watched this video yet, save to check for sound quality, which I have boosted somewhat just to make sure that everything's clear. When I think of bring your emotions to work, the notions that come to mind are the idea of bringing your whole self to work, or bringing your authentic self to work. That sort of initiative in a lot of companies these days to try to blur the line between one's professional life and one's personal life, to make work seem more like a home, a welcoming place, a family after a fashion. And by the sound of that, you wouldn't think there's anything wrong with that idea, that, you know, the place that you work should be somewhere you're comfortable and that the people you work with you get along with and so on. But there's something just a little bit too uncomfortable for me, and or insidious, depending on how you look at it, when you destroy the separation between personal life and professional life. And a lot of companies seem to be pushing for that these days. And I've always looked at it as kind of a subversive way to make sure you're never technically off the clock if your work life becomes your personal life after a fashion, or gets so entwined with each other that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. You're kind of always working for the company in a way. There be dragons, in my opinion, with that kind of initiative in companies, but I've talked about that on previous videos. Again, I don't know exactly what she's going to say in this presentation, but those are the ideas, those are the sort of suspicions I have about where it might go, depending on what her angle is on it. A couple more hellos and then we'll get into it. Sar Jim, hello. Jen T. Maxi, hello. Shiragorath, hello. All right, so per usual, I'm going to start off with the first few seconds. You guys tell me if you can hear it. I was seeing something weird, like on my own control panel screen, the video window was buffering at one point, which I don't think I'd seen before. So I don't know if something's up with StreamYards today. Hopefully nothing will go haywire, but then it is live TV, so who knows. Anyway, guys, let's listen to Bringing Your Emotions to Work.
All right, everyone. I have a confession to make.
You were the second gunman on the grassy knoll. That kind of confession? Did you guys hear that? She has a confession to make. So, audio is good, so Zero the Hero. Let's see. Sounds good, Keeverdam. Okay. I have a confession to make. I'm dying to know. It's something scandalous, I'm sure.
You ready?
Wow, that is one enthralled audience right there. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Also, lots of empty seats. Oh, TEDx. Why is that funny? And that one girl, and I'm moving my mouse here, she looks particularly bemused. Interesting. Okay.
I am an emotional person.
Oh my God.
I am the kind of person who wears my heart on my sleeve.
Bethany J. Adams, Associate Director of Marketing and Strategy, Graduate Studies in Human Resource. Should be Human Resources. It's all one line. Is that all one line? Associate Director of Marketing and Strategy, Graduate Studies in Human Resource Development at Villanova University. Okay, so something of a professional here. All right, she's an emotional person. She wears her emotions on her sleeve. Not necessarily the wisest course of action, but all right.
I have a terrible poker face, and I have never shied away from telling anyone how I feel about something.
You have no filter. Got it.
Now, let's be clear. I don't cry in office meetings.
Don't you, though? I have to be suspicious.
And I don't throw temper tantrums at work.
Don't you, though? Because I have to be suspicious.
But I do regularly get very emotional about the work that I do. And I feel excitement and joy, and sometimes frustration and anger and sadness when my work doesn't go right.
So you're a human being, like all the rest of us, unless you're a sociopath, I suppose. Congratulations.
Coming from a career in human resources where my work so often intersected and impacts the employees that I supported, there was a long time where I thought that this was a bad thing, that I was so emotional about my work.
Well, it depends on the kind of work you're doing, and it depends how productive it is to get emotional about your work. I mean, it's one-to-one kind of individual experience kind of thing. To me, in order to proceed logically and efficiently through my day, retracting emotions from situations is generally healthier, because when you get emotional at work, the thing is, especially if you're in a leadership position, it's not just about your emotions, because your reaction to things instigates similar emotions in those who work for you. You know, if the boss is all mad, everybody else starts to cringe back. So your emotions aren't just yours in the workplace. Again, depending on the circumstances.
That because I was so emotional, I was somehow less professional than everyone else. But I'm here today to tell you that I've been successful in my career, not in spite of my emotions, but because of them.
Again, everything in moderation. And how professional you are with the use of your emotions in your job, I guess it depends on what kind of job that you have and how you use those emotions. All right.
And I am challenging each and every one of you to rethink how you think about bringing emotions into the workplace.
Well, in my job, emotions in the workplace rarely add to anything. I mean, I work in, for shorthand purposes, data processing. Getting emotional about things, running around like a chicken with its head cut off because something's gone wrong, does nothing to solve the problem. You know, with the kind of work that I do, it's very technical. Either something is working or it isn't. And if it isn't, it's fairly easy to identify, if you work through it, where the problem lies. And then it becomes something either you can affect or something you can't affect. Getting emotional, freaking out, being really, really happy, really, really sad, it doesn't add anything to the work environment in my case. But then she's working in human resources, so you know, emotions are human. Maybe it's useful depending on what you're doing.
For a very long time, we have all thought that to be professional, we should shut off our emotions at work.
No, not shut off your emotions at work. Be in control of your emotions. There is a difference between being a Vulcan and just being stoic. Okay? There is a difference.
Right? We shouldn't show anyone that we're frustrated or that we're angry. But research tells us that emotions are not some secondary function of our brain that we can just choose to turn off or ignore.
You're correct. You cannot necessarily turn them off or ignore, but you can control them.
They're actually an integral part of what it means to think and to reason, and they help us make better decisions.
Not necessarily. Making decisions while emotional oftentimes does not necessarily lead to better outcomes. Please tell me you're going to give us some kind of exceptions there, because that as a blanket statement is absolutely incorrect.
If we use emotional intelligence and emotional data to make those decisions, we need to encourage our employees to bring their emotions into the workplace and use those emotions with emotional intelligence to make better decisions, make better products, make our organizations better.
Okay, so you're going to use the workplace to try to educate your employees on how to feel efficiently, to feel productively. Interesting concept. How much money and time do you tend to dedicate to this special kind of education in your average business, I wonder?
Now, think about what I just said.
Oh, I'm thinking about it bit by bit.
Emotional data. Data. Now, in our organizations today, we are collecting data about everything, right?
Right.
Data on how fast someone clicks a button in an app, how many applications we get for a particular job, how fast something takes to make, or how much it costs. And all that data helps us make better decisions to make our products better.
Not necessarily. Okay.
But data is more than time or clicks or cost. Data can come from emotions too. So let me give you an example. How many of you play the guitar?
Not me.
Anyone? Couple.
And 3 people in the back. Okay.
All right, couple. Now, how many of you have tried to play the guitar? Yeah, almost all of us, right?
Right.
And if you're like me, you didn't make it to the I play the guitar because you got frustrated, right?
Right.
Over the last year, Fender Guitars, has been conducting a vast market research study where they wanted to better understand who their customers are. And through that study, they found that 45% of their customers every year come from very first-time guitar players.
Imagine that.
45% every year. That is a huge portion of their market. But what they also found was that 90% of those first-time guitar players abandon their guitar playing dreams in the very first year.
Because they find they don't have a knack for it. I mean, I can't count how many things that I've been interested in that I've tried my hand at and just found that ultimately, the process doesn't really get me. I don't really have like I say, a knack for it or something. Okay. And I don't know where this is going, except that somehow they're going to solve people's frustrations without, if you don't like playing the guitar, if your grandmother buys you a guitar as a Christmas gift, you try it out a few times, you don't get interested in it, and you move on with your life. Fender's going to use data to fix your emotional reactions?
Probably like all of you, right? Why? Because they got frustrated.
Or they have no talent.
Their fingers hurt. They couldn't figure out the chords. It took way too long to learn their very first song.
and they're not interested in it. So they move on with their lives and find something they're interested in. Fender's going to solve that problem for people?
And frustration led to abandonment, and frustration is emotional data. Fender was able to key in on this piece of emotional data as being key to driving their sales for the future. And through this, Fender Play was born. It's a digital app that you can download, and it'll teach you how to play the guitar in a few simple, easy to understand steps. They say they can have you playing your very first song in under 30 minutes. Now, if I had been able to play my very first song in under 30 minutes, I would have been so excited. Everyone I know would have had to listen to that song over and over and over and over again until I made it into the next phase of the app.
And if you did not continue to have a passion for the instrument or for learning music or a natural talent for it or anything else, you would eventually give it up. App or no? I mean, I don't know. Okay. So emotional intelligence. Okay. And what does this have to do with bringing your emotions to work? I mean, analyzing your consumer base and trying to encourage further use of your product. Okay. I guess. Understanding your customers' habits. Okay. I guess. What's that got to do with being emotional in the workplace, though?
And that joy, that excitement is more emotional data that Fender can use to drive their sales further and improve their product.
Did their sales go up? I mean, did the retention of customers go up because of this app? I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to find out. I mean, did this app somehow change the dynamic of their sales? Curious.
Now, if we are going to really come to value emotions in the workplace, we must start first by checking our bias around emotional expression.
Checking our bias. Unconscious bias? Checking our bias around emotional expression. Emotional expression. Oh, is this... Again, I haven't watched this. Is this going to go towards gender bias? Because women classically, I put in quotation marks, are far more emotionally emotive than men?
Every single one of us expresses our emotions in different ways. And if we deviate from the way people expect that we should express our emotions, there could be negative consequences.
Yes, if you come to work every day and you're relatively conservative and you keep quiet, you do your job, whatever else, and everything's fine. You come to work someday, you're bawling your eyes out and crying and freaking out over every little thing. There might be negative consequences, or there might be a whole lot of concern from your coworkers that see you acting in a way that is unlike you. I know I'm talking at extremes here, but then I don't know what she's exactly talking about.
So let me give you an example. If you are like me and you would be willing to say that you are an emotional person, raise your hand. All right.
I would raise my hand. I mean, I am an emotional person. I am a feeling human being. Do I wear my emotions on my sleeve? Do my emotions drive me versus my, I don't know, my rational thinking retains my emotions? No. But okay, I am an emotional person. I feel a lot of things all the time.
Look around the room. There are way more women's hand raised than men.
Uh-huh. And the fact that men are raising their hands is what? Just negligible? Okay. Does that make the men who raise their hands more effeminate as a result? Okay.
And why?
Well, because women are far more expressive with their emotions on average than men are, who are far more stoic and controlled in their emotions. It doesn't mean you lack emotions. It's all a matter of how you manage your emotional output, for lack of a better phrase. Thank you, tall person. Didn't get notification until 15 minutes in. Anyway, happy. Boy, by the way, I am drinking a pepper jack. So if I'm a little loosey-goosey today, that might be why. Happy licorice say, everybody. You mean licorice day? That wasn't me mispronouncing. That was me reading it as it's written. Grab some Twizzlers if you so wish. Ugh. Okay. Just as a sidebar, Twizzlers taste like wax. Red vines. Red vines all the way. Red vines. Just saying. Anyway, yes, women are more emotionally expressive than men, generally speaking. That does not mean women are more emotional than men. It depends on how you express those emotions, how you manage those emotions. I really hope that our professional here is not going to equate emotional expressiveness with being more emotional, because they're not the same thing.
Well, I would assert it's because we as women have been told for a very long time through gender roles and norms that we are emotional. And you men have been told for a very long time that you should not be emotional.
We haven't been told anything. It is natural inclination. We observe this in babies and other small children who haven't been socialized in any meaningful way. Girls are more emotionally expressive. Boys are more emotionally restrained. That does not mean they all lack emotion if you don't show it. It just means you manage them and express them differently. Because I know it's a hard concept to grasp. Men and women are different.
Women are emotional. Men should not be emotional.
Women are emotional. Men are not as emotionally expressive. I'll keep correcting her as we go.
These are biases that we have about how people express emotion.
These are observable realities of how women behave versus men, generally speaking. They are not biases any more than they are based on observable reality.
And they're not necessarily true, but we've come to accept them.
They're not necessarily true person to person and in different degrees, but again, generally speaking, males and females express and process emotions differently.
And we need to change how we think about our perception of emotional expression. An example: if you are a woman who expresses excitement and enthusiasm, like I do, often, but through confidence and direct communication, you're often told in the workplace that you're aggressive.
Are you? I mean, I don't know. I haven't been party to every conversation in every workplace about a woman who is excited, etc. But again, it depends on degrees. Like, are you being overly enthusiastic? Are you being enthusiastic to the point of intrusion upon other people's work days? I mean, I don't know. I guess it would be a person by person analysis and not a general blanket statement, because different people behave differently. But what do I know?
Or worse. And if you're a man who expresses those same emotions through direct communication and excitement, you're labeled passionate or assertive.
Are you? All the time? For sure? Okay, let's talk about stereotypes again. Are we supposed to look past these stereotypes? You're using stereotypes to challenge stereotypes, I guess?
Now, what about crying? I told you at the beginning of this talk that I've yet to cry in a work meeting.
Okay, I'll believe her for the sake of argument.
But I promise you, it is not because I have never felt sadness over the work that I'm doing, or frustration, or disappointment.
So wait, you controlled your emotions? You didn't wear your emotions on your sleeve in those instances. You were, after a fashion, being dishonest with your coworkers about your emotional state, and you restrained yourself. Gosh, that's almost like what men do reflexively.
It's because I know and understand how crying is perceived in the workplace.
So if you thought crying was seen as something that was welcome, you would do it. But you're restraining yourself so you don't embarrass yourself, I guess.
People who cry are seen as weak. And especially for a woman crying in the workplace, they're seen as weak, possibly unstable, maybe even manipulative.
Yes, and I'm sure a man crying in the workplace would be seen as brave and strong, etc. Here's the question. Is your reaction from a reasonable perspective proportional to the situation? If you get overly excited over something minuscule, or you start bawling your eyes out over something minor, the proportionality of your reaction to the situation is going to say more about you than anything else, and your ability to manage and or react within reason to a situation. So I would need to know, in what instances and over what circumstances did you feel the need to cry? And did that situation, was it justified to cry or not? If it wasn't, did you withhold your crying because you were scared how you'd be perceived? Or did you withhold your crying because this wasn't a situation to start losing your head over? I don't know.
What about men who cry?
Yes, let's talk about men who cry.
In 2008, Howard Schultz stepped back into the role of CEO at Starbucks.
Howard Schultz, the guy whose brilliant idea of #RaceTogether written on coffee cups so that his employees could have a conversation with customers about race relations. Howard Schultz is the example you're going to use about crying at the workplace. I'm dying to know.
2008.
2008, 12 years ago. Okay, tell me.
It was the height of the Great Recession, and Starbucks was closing hundreds of stores throughout the country. They were laying off thousands of workers.
And so were many other companies, but I digress.
And Schultz was distraught. He was sad for the company that he had built and where it was and what they were having to do. In his very first meeting back as CEO, in front of the entire organization, he broke down in tears.
And was that reaction proportional to the situation? Thousands of employees were losing their jobs. Hundreds of stores were being closed. Everyone was suffering under the Great Recession. Was that reaction out of proportion with the circumstances? I would say probably not. Given his position, given what was going on. Now, you need an example where someone is reacting over much to the circumstances by crying. Not coming up with something as dramatically destructive as the Great Recession and thousands of people losing their jobs. I don't think anybody's going to complain about a woman or a man crying over that situation. Thank you, Point Curation. Prim Reaper is an expert on emotional labor. Prim Reaper. Is that a YouTuber? I can't say I've heard of them before, but okay.
And was he seen as weak or unstable as their new leader? No.
Because the situation was not out of proportion with his reaction, and vice versa. That's not the question. That's not the instance where people are going to question someone's sanity or their control or whatever, or their honesty. it matters whether or not their reaction is in proportion and justified by the circumstances. You bring up the most dramatic possible example and say that somehow because he was a man, he was given a pass. I don't think you are using a correct example to make the point that you're trying to make here.
He was praised for being emotionally vulnerable. Now, I want to be clear. I am not for 1 second saying that Schultz should not have been praised.
But I don't know if there's a but coming, but I always imagine in these instances there's a but.
I do believe that we need that kind of emotional vulnerability from our leaders.
But
my question to you is, if Schultz had been a female CEO, would his tears have been perceived the same way?
I don't know. You don't know. No one else can know the answer to that question because Howard Schultz is a man and not a woman. But let's use our imaginations. I suppose that the implication here is that if a woman had been on that podium and been crying about the loss of jobs and everything else, everyone would have thought of her as emotionally weak and unstable, etc., etc. I guess that's what you want us to think, but okay.
If we're being honest with ourselves.
No. If we're being honest with ourselves, we don't know. But you tell me how I'm supposed to be thinking.
Probably not.
Yeah, well, okay. That's your assessment of me from your own imagination. Okay.
And beyond bias from gender, emotional expression bias can come in any form. Race, religion, ethnicity. We all assume things based on who we are looking at and the emotions that they express in front of us.
No, you are projecting a belief onto others of what you assume to be the case because you are the one with bias. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there in this talk.
Emotional intelligence is understanding your emotions, managing those actions you take in response to your emotions, and understanding how your emotions will be perceived by others and the perception of others' emotions around you.
Okay, that definition taken by itself, all right, I will accept it. Emotional intelligence is having an idea about how emotions, the expression thereof, the effect they may have, will be around you in any particular situation. You obviously cannot read other people's minds, unlike our speaker here, who apparently has that talent. But you can sort of assess, is this an appropriate moment in which to cry or let my anger show? Or is it productive to do da-da-da-da-da, whatever? Okay, I'll take that definition on its face.
The perception of others' emotions is where our biases need to be checked.
Why is my perception inherently incorrect? If I see someone acting in an emotional way, and it is either within or without of proportion with the situation in which it is being expressed, why do I need to change how I interpret those things? Why?
Beyond just our bias, there's also a real danger when expressing emotion in the workplace right now. Your industry, your organizational culture, your level within the organization could change how your emotions are perceived and whether or not it could impact your career.
Yes. Are you in a leadership position? Do you lose your cool under stressful situations and take those frustrations out on your employees, your subordinates, or your peers in the organization? Yes. Yes, it does matter where you are, what you're doing, and the circumstances of what you're doing before you have an emotional outburst. How productive is it to have an emotional outburst in the office if you're in a leadership position. If you can't take stress, if you manage frustration by crying, I don't know. I don't think it matters whether you're a man or a woman in that instance. It might generally give people an impression that you don't quite have control of yourself.
But we need to understand that research tells us the more people express their emotions in a reasonable way about the work that they're doing, the better their work is.
A reasonable way. Now, I'm glad you said that. A reasonable way. Because it is about reason. Reason restraining emotion, especially in the workplace, in a professional environment. Reasonable. Is it reasonable to act like X in situation Y? Well, it depends on the situation as to whether or not your reaction is reasonable. Doesn't it?
In 2012, Google wanted to better understand their teams, right? Google, pretty successful company, and they wanted to understand why some of their teams were wildly successful, helping them with that success, and others were just average.
I'd take a look at the leadership first and foremost. But you're going to tell us that's because the leaders of those other teams were emotional, I guess?
So they asked organizational psychologists and their people analytics team to conduct hundreds of internal interviews. They named this project Project Aristotle.
Ooh, how fancy. It's so intellectual because it's Aristotle's name on it.
They wanted to find out why these teams were so successful. So they asked them questions about their work. They looked at their skills. They looked at their resumes. They asked each other questions about the work that they were doing and how they worked together.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And
what did they find? Well, related to our talk today, they found that who was on the team mattered less than how the team worked together.
Wait. Are you telling me that teamwork is a thing? Oh my God.
That the teams that were most successful, the core element that existed in those teams, psychological safety.
You mean teamwork? A sense of teamness made a team a more effective team? I don't know if I can handle this much revelation.
Psychological safety means that the teams felt open and vulnerable with one another. They were willing to take risks and share ideas and share their thoughts and, yes, even their emotions.
Oh my God. Does that mean they were all crying together? Were they losing it with each other, crying? When one was angry, were they all angry? Is that what made them good teams? Oh my God.
Emotional vulnerability led to better ideas and better products because the teams that were able to say, I'm worried about this, or I don't know, I don't think this works. There's just something in my gut telling me. The ones who were able to express how they were feeling about the work that they were doing, they were the ones that questioned the work and found the better answers and led to better outcomes.
Wow. So open, free-form communication amongst a team to try to solve problems, come up with new ideas. Is that an emotional reflex or is that a communicative reflex? You know, working as a team. You're telling me that working as a team made better teams. No credit goes to the team lead for, engendering that kind of environment amongst the team. No, emotions were the core driver there. Okay.
We are moving into organizations where technology is going to become more prevalent every day.
What? Okay. I don't know how more lazy a platitude I could have heard just then. Technology is going to become more important in organizations. We live in the 21st century. In every industrialized country, there is nothing that is not touched upon by quote unquote technology. Computers, smartphones, algorithms, spreadsheets. What does that even mean?
Every day.
Every day, yes, every day. And it has been every day for the last 25 years or more. And of course, that's only if you talk about technology as far as like electronics and such. If you're talking about technology as a concept, we've had the wheel and fire for quite a while.
And as we do, that technology is going to make us faster and better and capable of more in the future.
Possibly. It all depends on how it is used, how it is leveraged. Technology can also make you lazy and stupid. Okay.
But the real competitive advantage will come from our ability to connect with people on an emotional level, to build teams of organizations where collaboration is at its finest because teams are open and vulnerable with one another when it comes to their emotions.
Not necessarily. And again, you're talking in platitudes. Oh, wow. Do you mean to tell me that organizations function more efficiently when the teams are well-oiled? They get along? They brainstorm? Nothing you're saying is a revelation. Nothing. Emotional intelligence or not. Technology, quote unquote, or not. How did we survive this long as a species without finding ways to get along, finding ways to work together to achieve a goal, to advance ourselves, and on and on and on? Emotions or not, we're all interacting with each other as human beings. There's, of course, an emotional component to every human interaction, but it is not necessarily the end-all, be-all. Okay. I'm ranting. Pardon me.
As technology comes into our organizations more...
As technology comes into our... When has technology not been part of modern organizations? When? The pencil is technology, for gosh sakes. The keyboard, the computer, as though what, you're on the leading edge of some revolution? I think you're about 40 years behind the times.
More and more, the struggle to stay human will be the struggle to find the emotional data, to express the emotional vulnerability, and to use emotional intelligence to build better teams and better organizations.
The implementation of technology into the workplace does not rob the workers and the employees of humanity. My using this computer to broadcast this show does not rob me of my humanity. My ability to function as a human being is not somehow reduced by the use of technology. What are you even talking about? Okay.
So, what can you do today?
I am at a loss. What can I do today?
First, I'm asking each and every one of you to start thinking about your own emotional intelligence.
Thinking about my own emotional intelligence, because the 40 years that I have lived my life, I have not struggled with or had to face my emotional reactions, my emotional life, my emotions as they pertain to professional life or personal life. Gosh, I've never spent any time considering my emotions. Ugh. Thank you, Adam Mangold. Do you need Duck's ranting scribe? I might. I don't know. Certain people and their assumptions about things or their grand declarations about reality that just fly in the face of common experience sometimes just rub me the wrong way.
Think about the emotions that you're feeling. Stop suppressing them.
Wait, stop suppressing them? There's a difference between suppression and control. Okay? Metering out how much of my frustration comes to the fore is not necessarily the same as what I'm feeling. Maybe I'm oversensitive to this. Haha, see, I'm expressing my emotional intelligence. For many, many, many years of my life, I dealt with anxiety, unhealthy, irrational anxiety. In the absence of medication or therapy, rampant anxiety. And I went to work every day. I maintained a productive lifestyle in spite of all the anxiety I was feeling all the time over things that did not matter. Right? My rational brain knew that my reaction to this tiny thing was out of whack. And so I retained and restrained my reactions to the outside world. That did not change what I was feeling inside. I was still freaking out irrationally. I was still feeling like the world was coming to an end irrationally. But for the sake of my workplace, for the sake of my relationships, and on, I reined it in because I knew rationally I was reacting irrationally. It's one of the most torturous kind of lives to live. You've got these two sides warring with each other. Rational, irrational, logical and overly emotional, etc. Just because you express yourself in one way does not necessarily match up with what you are feeling inside. That's the difference. That seems to be something our speaker does not seem to understand.
Learn to manage the actions you take in response to them, but imagine those feelings are natural and I'm allowed to have them about my work.
Yes, so why are you railing against men for how they behave? Why are you assuming that men, in your own example, somehow don't have emotions? Whereas they are feeling everything the same as anybody else, but what they allow themselves to express, what they allow themselves to have interact with the real world is just different than women. Why is that so difficult for you to imagine? Because it seems like that is something you are having trouble imagining.
There are books. There are other TED Talks. There are great surveys that you can take backed by research that can help you identify ways to improve your own emotional intelligence.
Why do you assume my emotional intelligence is inherently flawed? Why? What you see being expressed from an individual is not necessarily what they're feeling on the inside. You cannot know that because you're not a mind reader. If you're going to equate expression with internal sensation, you've lost part of the equation.
Second, we need to start checking our bias around emotional expression. The next time someone expresses an emotion in front of you that you're not expecting, stop and say, hey, they're human. They're allowed to express their emotions. And think about how your bias might be affecting how you're viewing the emotions that they're expressing.
Context. Context matters. Over what are they expressing these emotions? Under what circumstances? That will tell me, or at least give me a clue from my own interpretations, whether or not their reaction is rational, whether or not their emotional outburst, whatever it is proportional to the situation at hand. These things do not exist in a vacuum. Context is key.
And finally, if you are a manager or a leader in an organization, or if you plan to be a manager or a leader in the future, I am urging you to learn to understand the importance of psychological safety in the workplace. Go and read research, Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, or look for the emotional intelligence surveys that Google did. Look at their Project Aristotle work. It's all out there. They're great resources. The more you learn to allow your team to express their emotions about the work that they're doing, the better their work's going to be.
Looking for ways to become a better leader, I'm not going to argue with. I don't know the quality or the value of the things that she cited, but, leadership comes naturally to some people. Some people have a spark of it and they need to build off of it, and on and on. If you're put in a position of authority, of leadership over a group of people, I do not disparage anyone looking for ways in which to improve their leadership skills. Again, I don't know if the things she cited are actually valuable or not, but fundamentally, the sentiment is stipulated.
If you want me to be an exceptional employee, then you need to allow me the freedom to express my emotions about my work and be reasonably emotional, even though that might mean that sometimes I get angry or frustrated or sad about my work. But you will also see my passion, my excitement, and my enthusiasm when we are successful together.
Reasonably. The key word there is reasonably. She keeps saying it, and yet I'm not quite sure if she believes it.
You will see great work from me because I will be free to bring my emotions to work. I challenge you to do the same. Thank you.
Wow. Some shouts there at the end. Very enthusiastic. Do you think that was proportional as an emotional response to the context of the presentation given? I would say no. I don't think I was that excited. Well, obviously I was excited after a fashion. I was inspired. I was irritated, impassioned as I watched this. Sure. Were my reactions reasonable in proportion to the subject matter I was viewing? I don't know. I leave that to others to estimate. Thank you, Manic. Dogcat Fox, big smiley Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much. Dogcat Fox, who lives with me here on the moon and keeps me company in this quarantine lockdown time. But so guys, there you go. Bringing your emotions to work, the benefits and pitfalls thereof, as given to us by our speaker. I'll take the last few minutes of this hour to entertain your questions or comments. I think I've commented and questioned enough as it is. So scrolling up a bit, Mayroon's Dagon, are there plants in the audience? Well, when it comes to TEDx, I'm always suspicious, especially those TEDx talks where the person on the stage is, and they usually don't reveal this until late in the game, are actually there promoting their own service or product or app or something. And I always have to wonder how much of that audience is there to clap along and laugh along as part of the advertisement. In this instance, if she was populating the audience with plants, they sure weren't there. We saw plenty of empty chairs, and when it came down to audience participation, they seemed to be a little hesitant, a little not there. So if there were, there weren't many. In my estimation. I could be wrong. Let's see. Faithless says, I would say it was her friends in attendance. They were relatively sedate friends, if they were. It's hard to say. Gunfox61, Scribe, yeah, at least the people on the moon have common sense. Given how few of us there are on the moon, maybe might be giving me too much credit. But Dogcat Fox is nothing but common sense. Thank you, Mr. Scott, J87. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning. It's true. and since the world's been turning. And when we are gone, it will still burn on. Yeah, I know, I'm a jukebox. Let's see. Subpar Genitalia says, Scribe, I'm emotionally dissatisfied. Excuse me whilst I weep. Yeah, no, that's the effect that TEDx can have on some people. It's okay. I think that's a reasonable reaction. Midnight Exile says, a lot of them are probably also there selling their apps. They clap along or nobody claps for them. Again, it depends on the TEDx talk. I've done several where they've revealed late in the presentation that they just happen to be the creator of an app that will help solve whatever problem that they're presenting, or some kind of website or some kind of service or some kind of product. There was one, the two that come to mind was the one where the guy was promoting an app to connect people with, what was it, charitable organizations or something, or artists, something like that. And the other one was the two ladies on the stage who were talking about the difficulties of women going out hiking and having to pee, but can't do it the same way as men because of the front zipper. So they came up with a kind of pants that has a zipper in the back, without going into how that's supposed to operate with underwear involved, unless you've got a zipper for the underwear. Yeah, anyway, it's somewhere in the playlist of TEDx talks, guys. Let's see. Brian Wilson, Scribe Like, congratulations on dealing with your anxiety. Yeah, I managed it. I managed it for many years. It wasn't fun. And eventually I was managing more than I was living. And so I had to give in to the idea of medicating myself, which I was very, very, very averse to for most of my life. But as I've said on previous streams, I lucked out, and the first medication I was prescribed was effectively a magic bullet. It took out all the static and left me feeling otherwise normal, so far as I can tell. I mean, it's all subjective, but yeah, I'm much better now than I was years ago. Thank you, Hakatus Maximus. Thank you for entertaining me while I do RPG Maker. Ooh, are you making a game? Ooh, what kind of game? Curious to know. Faithless says, I've seen the butt zipper pants. They look sexually convenient. Well, there's that too. They didn't mention that so much, I don't think. And let's see. Renovaccio, behind the veil of BS is her failing to act in a controlled professional manner in the workplace, and her demanding everyone else accommodate and even celebrate her failures. Usual feminist SJW conclusion. Well, I always have to be suspect of situations where someone is trying to alter the environment around them to permit and or accommodate their own behavioral practices. Like, I behave in this way. Everybody needs to see how I behave as normal so I don't feel out of place or bad anymore. And I'm not just talking about this lady in particular. I'm talking about that general trend of things, where my normal must become your normal so that I feel empowered and no longer the outsider. That's something we see quite often in a lot of these talks. Now, I don't know this lady or her habits at all. I couldn't say for sure. But I have to wonder if the way that she reflexively expresses herself hasn't in the past made her feel uncomfortable, and consequently she feels inspired maybe to make everybody accept her for how she acts naturally so that she doesn't have to feel out of place as much. Maybe. I mean, for as much psychological analysis as she professes to know about her audience, I can't help but wonder about her own psychological process in being inspired to try to analyze her audience, or making assumptions thereof, or dare I say, expressing her biases thereof. But with that, guys, we come to the top of the hour, and thus effectively the end of the broadcast. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me on this wonderful emotional roller coaster. I hope it was informative after a fashion. You found something out of it, whether entertainment, education, or both. edutainment, I call it. I hope everyone is safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it, especially in these crazy times we find ourselves in. And everyone, again, happy Easter. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Take care, and I will see you on Monday on Satsu 2 Senses channel, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for Lords of the Night. Everyone take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.